things are happening in a country like this. I'm imagining that the president he is the minister of petroleum, the substantive minister of petroleum. He should have word the big stick, because Nigerians are taken for a ride, and this is quite unfair, and getting one so emotional about the state of our country in some things that in other climes, that is what they do so easily. We find it so difficult to do. And it's so much so that a lot of criminal activities are going on, and Nigerians are seeing it. So that the exchange rate, the naira, is falling so badly to the dollar to about 1,600 from about 700 last year. It does mean something, that as the dollar is appreciating against the naira, the price of that commodity should be rising. But that has not been the case. Rather, we are seeing more queues and more queues on at the filling station. Agreed that government is not responsible largely for that product, which you have left, according to the PIA and its dictate, to the market forces. An essential commodity like that is scarce in the country. Shouldn't a responsible government be talking every day to the Nigerian people? Shouldn't the government be seen on the street monitoring the supply of this product? Or what exactly? Am I the one that is overtly sensitive to this matter, which now I see more fear in the NNPCL statement, Mr. Falano?
You see, Sean, as I did say earlier, once the government begins to speak about affordability and sustainability in response to growing queues in filling stations, there are problems. And when you also consider the statement of the Minister of State in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that the government can no longer sell fuel at 600 naira per liter. At the same time, we are being told that subsidy is gone and the government is no longer subsidizing. But again, we are told that we are still spending a colossal sum of about $10 billion per annum to subsidize. So somewhere, Nigerians are not being, there's no full disclosure on the part of the government. But this time around, with the statement coming out from the issue by the NNPC today, it is high time questions are asked by Nigerians. For instance, it is high time the importation scam was investigated. And I'm not talking of the joke that is going on in the National Assembly. Nigerians must now, the media must help. Civil society organizations must help to expose the fraud. Seun, I'm not sure you know how many people have bought a car in the last 1.5 years. Even second-hand cars. The point I'm making is that the number of vehicles on the road is being reduced. Yet we're told that during the days of boom, the NNPCL was spending, subsidizing 68 million liters of fuel per day. Now that there are problems, there is scarcity everywhere, there is poverty everywhere, new vehicles are not on the road, we are still paying for 68 million liters of fuel. Whereas before this regime came on board, a Comptroller General of Customs challenged the NNPC during a Senate hearing, public hearing, that it is not possible for the amount of fuel that is said to be smuggled out of the country, that we man the borders, because you will need about 2,000 tankers to take out the amount of fuel that the NNPC claimed that was being smuggled out. What has changed? This is the time to expose the monumental fraud that has characterized the importation of fuel in Nigeria. But again, as I did say, that the country can no longer afford to sustain 600 naira per liter of fuel, because according to him, smuggling is on the ascendancy because the pipelines are old too, because of the nefarious activities of smugglers. Once again, Nigerians are being informed that very soon we are going to be collectively penalized for the criminal activities of smugglers. For me, the government has to come up clean. If it wants to increase the pump price of PMS once again, the government should announce it. This, what Nigerians are being subjected to, is unacceptable. And I was very embarrassed as a Nigerian. And I think majority of Nigerians are. If a government comes out to say that we are helpless, we are incapable to check the activities of criminals, smugglers, and therefore, all of you will have to be held responsible. Whereas, and I'm challenging the minister publicly, that in 2010, the government entered into a PPP arrangement with a company called TPMS to install a cargo tracking system in the ports. That system for 1 year checked or monitored oil theft, smuggling of petrol out of the country. But what happened after a year? Criminal elements pressurized the government to cancel the contract. But the pressure on the government continued. By 2018, August 2018, the government awarded a 17 billion naira contract to check and stop smuggling of petrol out of Nigeria. In fact, all tankers taking petrol out of Nigeria were going to be tracked by a particular software, Aquila. But what happened? The money was criminally diverted. The software was not installed. And nobody up to now has explained what happened to the fund. In July this year, July 13, the same minister, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, announced that the Bola Tinubu administration had awarded 2 contracts worth $21 million to checkmate oil theft and smuggling of petroleum or petrol out of Nigeria. In fact, the contract, according to the minister, will be complemented with advanced cargo tracking. That was last month. For the same minister to come out and say that the government cannot stop smuggling. I think there are problems. There's a need for coordination in terms of information being dished out there by the government. But if you merge, if you consider the statement just made by the NNPC and the minister, the statement of the Minister of State, I think there are problems. And Nigerians are being told to be prepared. If you want to stop fuel scarcity, sustainability is key. And we are being told petrol is being smuggled out of Nigeria. And the government said we cannot stop that. So to stop that, the question of sustainability and affordability will come in. So the government should come out and let Nigerians know what is the effect of the contract, because the contract will be executed in 180 days, according to the minister. So what are we expecting at the end of the 6 months? 2, we have been told that with a fair, we cannot afford to have foreign contractors, mess up the country. So we want to find out, we're not talking of NNPC, we want to sue those contractors. If there is another postponement of the commencement date for those, for production, refining of crude oil in those 4 refineries, it is not the business of the NNPC unless there is more to it than what we are seeing. What is your business? You're not the contractor fixing the refinery. Why are you changing the dates?
What about those who are supervising or coordinating these repairs on behalf of the Nigerian people? Those who are in government, those who are in the NNPCL, they have the trust of the Nigerian people to supervise. It's over a year now that the government has promised under the Buhari government that this refinery was going to be ready. Are they taking for Nigerians for a joke, or what exactly is going on? And Nigerian people are suffering. Their monies are being taken into these entities and they're not working.
No, Shem, I am not sure the government is actually in control of the development around the oil industry. When you award a contract, I say timeline. The government awarded a 6-month contract last month, right? For tracking of ships that are taking crude out of Nigeria. The government also awarded a contract to track petrol being taken out of Nigeria. So we're making some progress. With respect to the rehabilitation of the refineries, again, there is a timeline. There is already a breach. We want to find out why we have the breach. Those who are in charge, because of the cabal of importers, are having problems taking charge of the situation on behalf of all of us. And that is why the media, the labor unions, civil society organizations will have to intervene in the interest of the Nigerian people, having regards to the reverberating effect of any increase in the price of petrol. We cannot afford to just simply continue to clap for the NNPC. No, we've gone beyond that level now. And we can't be treated like pigs for our country, for an agency of government. The refineries will be commissioned next month. The contract for their rehabilitation, has been perfected. Oh, it's going to be December last year. Later it became March. Later it became July. Now it was August. Now it's going to September. We can't continue like this as a people.
I mean, I'm just imagining. I've got some other issues that I'd like us to discuss. Your final take on this fuel matter. Because what worries me is the possibility of a hike in price and the possibility of the return or scarcity of the product in the country. And you know what happens? When that happens, prolonged sufferings for Nigerians. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think Nigerians should be prepared to challenge the NNPCL to come out boldly and let Nigerians know what the situation is. But I've also thrown the challenge to Nigeria to be prepared to join the issues with the government at every stage. No more than state can justify inflicting punishment of the people because of the criminal activities of smugglers. No. So Nigerians must reject any arguments, any reason adduced by the government that simply expose us to ridicule. Furthermore, all the agents of change in our society, trade unions, the progressive extraction of the civil society must be prepared to join the issues with the government. Because this fraud has gone on for too long. For too long. These guys in power for 25 years. Both the PDP-led government and the APC-led government have given Nigerians the impression that what is going on in the oil industry or the crisis there cannot be solved. We have the PIA. It took over 20 years to have the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act. We now have the PIA. Yet, things are getting worse by the day. And that is why we can no longer leave our affairs in the hands of the government. The government needs assistance. We must also challenge our governors and now the local government, because the three tiers of government are also being shortchanged by the NNPCL with respect to what goes to the federation account at the end of the day. So that is why all hands must be on deck to resolve this problem once and for all. We can't spend $2.9 billion to fix refineries. When the refineries are about to take off, we're now being told to be prepared for a new increase. No, it's unacceptable.
Absolutely. Look, when we wonder that those who are representing the Nigerian people, supposed representatives of the Nigerian people in the National Assembly should be doing more. But of course, their own role in the scheme of things is now being questioned. And the spotlight is on them. As c0rrrup today has gone to court to sue them, the National Assembly members, for fixing what it described as the running costs of lawmakers. Those who say we are paying too much to service less than 600 people at the mercy of the Nigerian people, at the mercy of those who are supposed to be serving them. In this kind of situation where there is rot in the sector, you would think that the National Assembly should rescue the Nigerian people and salvage the situation. What do you make of the c0rrrup suit against the National Assembly?
I've tried to reach out to the leadership of c0rrrup this afternoon to remind the organization that indeed there is a judgment which was delivered by the Honorable Justice Obiozo a couple of years back, where the court held that it is illegal and unconstitutional for members of the National Assembly to fix their own salaries and allowances, because by virtue of Section 70 of the Constitution, that is a duty imposed exclusively on the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Now, if that judgment has not been challenged on appeal, it is valid and subsisting. So instead of starting a new action, c0rrrup, which was a party to that case, and I'm talking of the case of Monday Ubani and the National Assembly, what c0rrrup and other concerned organizations and individuals should do is to come together and see how the judgment that have been delivered on this matter will be enforced. But nobody is above the law.
So the National Assembly has said we do not fix anything that we take home, any salary that we take home. RAMFAC is responsible. But it does look to me that the figures coming from some of the members of the National Assembly and RAMFAC are totally different. And there are those who will say, look, leave your basic salary. Let us see, print out your bank statement. That is where we will see what you actually earn. Because when you say that your salary and allowance, there are those who believe that so much more money are going into the hands of these lawmakers beyond what is official.
Well, I don't think the impression should be given. I mean, we shouldn't demonize the National Assembly as it were. We shouldn't single out the National Assembly as it were. I mean, we are complaining about the SUV bought for 160 million naira per member of the National Assembly. I also know heads of agencies that have acquired 2 cars for about 700 million naira. So it has to be a holistic review of the purposes of office, of public officers alone. But in the case of the National Assembly, whether they call it running costs, allowances, or whatever, there is already a judgment of the court. And to worsen the case, and I think the National Assembly members talking about running costs have not looked at the budget, the 2024 Appropriation Act. The total budget of the National Assembly for this year is 370 billion naira. Running costs are included. And when you talk of a running cost of an organization, it's the cost of keeping the organization going. Not, and that includes, you know, the cost of running the secretariat, I mean, the National Assembly complex, fueling the generators, electricity bills, and of course, in this instance, the salary and allowances of members of the National Assembly are different from the running costs of the National Assembly. There's no provision for running costs for individual members of the National Assembly, as far as the law is concerned. And you can go and check the budget. There is no such provision.
Quickly, Mr. Falano, well, I do think that a whole lot of the time that it's not so much about demonizing, it's also about accountability, especially for a National Assembly that has been in the eye of the storm for so many years. Maybe there's so much more they need to do for transparency's sake. But if you look at the questions that...
Assembly alone, there are public officers who are riding 4 jeeps, 4 SUVs. So if you limit it to the National Assembly, there are problems.
But the question...
And that's the point I'm making.
The question about the executive, Mr. Falano, that those who are saying the ministers, heads of agencies, we do not know where this government is headed with the issue of the cost of governance as they promised that they will cut cost of governance and implement the c0rruption report. In part, there are those who will say c0rruption report, in part, is still because there are a whole lot of commissions and agencies and parastatals that have been created since that report was submitted to government. I mean, isn't there an urgency that should be put in the matter of the implementation of the c0rruption report?
Without going to the Oronsanya report, we are talking of the cost of governance. And the cost of governance today has to do with the perquisites of office of members of the executive and the legislative branches of government. And it's not that we shouldn't be talking of the federal level alone. We shouldn't be talking of National Assembly members alone. It must be a holistic review. I mean, you can't have a public officer under the current harsh economic reality riding 10, 50 cars. No, there are problems with that. We must begin to ask, what is the take home of every public officer in Nigeria? No, you can't talk of security votes when you should be budgeting for the security of the people in every state, so that at the end of the day, we know what it will cost a governor to run a state. We know what it should cost the president to run the presidency. We know what every minister will need to run a ministry. And now that goes for the National Assembly and, of course, state legislature. We must even go to the level of local government in view of the judgment of the Supreme Court.